Hello everyone. So another Tax Tip Tuesday session. And just because a PPP loan is a very hot topic and so many of you have questions on the forgiveness part especially, I just thought I will focus on today's Tax Tip Tuesday session on the PPP forgiveness. So without any delay, let's dive into our session. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Minal Babaria, and I am a CPA certified tax coach. And I'm the founder of the KB Tax Deviser CPAs, a full professional service accounting firm in Central Valley, Pennsylvania. And let's go to our first question. For the purpose of this webinar, I'm just covering few questions which I think might answer many questions that you all have on the PPP loan forgiveness. So the first question I have here is, how do I ensure my entire loan is forgiven? Now, this is kind of a tricky part here when we talk about getting the entire loan forgiven. Unless you add more employees compared to what you had last year, or you have 25% of the expenses that comprises of the rent, utility, and other expenses, it will be very challenging to have 100% of the loan forgiven. And I'm saying this because, if you look at it, when the PPP loan amount was calculated, it was calculated based off the 2.5 months of payroll. We took the average payroll for the whole year multiplied by 2.5 months, which is equal to 10.75 weeks. And when we talk about the PPP loan forgiveness, it is only 8 weeks. So you see that difference there, So unless you add more employees compared to last year, or your payroll is increased and somehow you can justify either adding an employee or a higher payroll, it will be a little bit tough to have all the expenses being forgiven. In case if you don't have the rent and the other utility expenses that comprises of the 25% of the loan. So the next question I have here is, should I pay my staff to sit at home? Please understand that paying employees is not necessarily free here. Yes, the gross wages might be forgiven as part of the PPP loan forgiveness, but the company still has the expenses associated with the payroll, such as the employer's portion of the Social Security taxes and the Medicare taxes. That is not going to be considered as part of the payroll cost for the purpose of the forgiveness calculation. So having said that, it still might make sense to pay people because they are a key position and remain critical for the continued operation of your business in the future. And also you have to assess it if it is really worth it. The next question, PPP forgiveness question number 3, how does quarterly or monthly payroll fit into the 8-week window? And this is one of the biggest unknowns of the PPP loan forgiveness calculations. It's a concept of cash versus accrual basis of accounting. In cash basis of accounting, as many of you know already, revenue and expenses are recognized on the date that they were received or paid. It's basically cash in, cash out. It's very simple. In accrual accounting, revenue and expenses are recognized on the date they were earned or obligation was incurred. And as of today, we are unclear on which method of accounting that the SBA will require. But the purest way is to use the accrual accounting, but the simplest way is to use the cash basis of accounting, because that will give you maximum benefit on the PPP loan forgiveness. So as such, we recommend taking mystery out of this and converting yourself to have 4 convenient payroll events, or convert your pay period to biweekly pay period, or a weekly payroll instead of processing quarterly or monthly payroll, because this will ensure that you get the maximum benefit available either way. There might be some minor adjustments or tweaks required for the first payroll, for the first pay period as well as the last, but it might pay off. The next question, is the PPP forgiveness calculation complicated? Absolutely, yes. It can absolutely get complicated. The very first question itself is the 8 weeks versus 2 months, cash basis of accounting versus accrual, incurred versus paid. And there are so many CPAs and many accounting professionals are looking more guidance on this. So absolutely, this can get complicated. And on top of it, SBA and the government keeps amending the CARES Act every hour of the day, right? So it can absolutely get complicated. The reason why I'm saying the 4 weeks or 8 weeks versus 2 months, 4 weeks versus 1 month, these are the synonymous in some circles and definitely different in others. Now, a lease agreement, just for an example, is done on a monthly basis as opposed to the weekly basis. However, IRS in some parts of the tax codes defines a month as a 4-week period, and however the IRS tax codes is not in charge necessarily, but the CARES Act makes several references to the various tax code sections. But at the end of the day, it also creates lots of its own definitions as well. So, majority of this kind of things are defined by the IRS. But right now, due to the pandemic, many of these definitions are altered by the CARES Act as well. So the next complication is any kind of settled expenses. For example, you pay rent in advance. Let's say you paid the rent on April 1st for the month of April, and then you received your PPP loan on April 15th. Shouldn't a portion of that rent be deductible as part of the PPP loan forgiveness calculation? Perhaps, yes. And it again depends on the cash versus accrual basis of accounting. So the next complication is all the PPP loan forgiveness reductions. This includes no more than 25% being spent on the payroll cost, non-payroll cost, such as rent, utilities, business loan interest, and also looking at the full-time equivalent employee calculations and pay reduction calculations. If you are a one-person business, S Corp, C Corp, one-person entity, this might be fairly simple or straightforward for you. But for anyone with the employees, it does get very complicated very fast. And we have developed a PPP loan forgiveness tracker, which we keep updating, every day. There is a new amendment or new guidance issued by the SBA or the government, and we make sure to keep up with all the updates. And we have been providing that trackers to many of our clients for a nominal fees, and that does help you to ensure it's kind of you just plug in some numbers and there are all the formulas and everything which automatically calculates for you. So it does help you and guide you on the process, how far you are from getting your whole loan amount being forgiven. It does take into consideration the full-time equivalent employees, if you're supposed to give any raises or give any bonuses, how that will affect your PPP loan forgiveness portion, and if it is worth it to pay an employee for just sitting at home, and what cost you are looking at for the employer's portion of medical as well as Medicare as well as the Social Security taxes versus how much benefit you're getting towards that loan amount being forgiven. So let us know if you're interested, and I can definitely send you that calculator. The next question, the forgiven amount of my loan taxable. And we did receive some guidance on this last week or maybe earlier this week. I'm kind of losing my track here. So my answer is no, but there is a slight situation that the IRS reminded everybody about the notice 2020-32 The IRS states that expenses paid with non-taxable income, such as a PPP forgiveness monies, are not tax deductible. Um, the PPP loan amount that will be forgiven, that's not going to be counted as your income. So the expenses that covered that forgiveness portion will not be counted as your deductible expenses, for your business. So this would be kind of a double dip, and traditionally requires an allocation to be performed by the business entity tax return on the business entity tax return. And the American Institute of CPAs is currently fighting over this. However, there is a significant history with the IRS not allowing tax deduction, especially when the income used to pay for those expenses is not tax deductible. So in other words, you will not have an increase in revenue based on the loan proceeds, but you will have a decrease in normal operating expenses. So would it really mean your income will not increase, but your operating expenses will decrease? And when that happens, your net income might be higher. And hence you might end up paying more tax on that net income. The next question, when does the 8-week period start? I received my loan today. Tomorrow is my pay date. Will this payroll be counted for the PPP forgiveness? Okay, so when does the 8-week period start? It starts when the money is deposited in your bank account. It doesn't start when you sign the paperwork and your loan is approved. It starts when the money is actually deposited in your business bank account. Now again, when we talk about the pay period here, especially the first and the last payroll is a question here. Again, we are looking for more guidance in there, but you have to be able to show a good faith calculation for those expenses. Again, SBA will come up with some guidance. However, many banks and lenders might have their own rule or justification. And as you have seen with the PPP loan application, when you had the proper calculation and you had, proper way of explaining bank how we are coming up with the maximum loan amount, they were accepting it. So I wouldn't doubt bank will not accepting when you have the good calculation here. Again, as long as you can justify it and it is not fraudulent. So they have said they will, the SBA is saying that they will only include 2 pay periods. I shouldn't say the SBA is saying, but my resources with the SBA, they are interpreting this as, they will only include 2 pay periods for monthly payroll schedules. So if you are processing payroll on a monthly payroll basis, you're looking at 2 pay periods. If you are processing payroll on a bi-weekly or semi-weekly, bi-weekly or semi-monthly basis, you're looking at 4 pay periods, pay schedules. And if you are someone who is processing payroll on a weekly basis, it's very straightforward, 8 pay schedules. So I would highly recommend, again, just document the dates and the calculations, as the lenders might have some flexibility as long as there isn't any malicious efforts to include expenses that weren't truly incurred in the 8-week period. Again, our PPP loan forgiveness tracker might come in hand here, because you know where your PPP loan forgiveness starts, where it ends. You are updating that tracker as you move along from week to week. So that's it for today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And I know this is a very complicated situation and a tough situation that we are in, but we are here to support you. Okay, stay safe. Bye for now.